This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Ultimately, Smoky Mountain's going to shut it down, and he's going to be back in the WWF full time. So are you. What else was Jim doing when he comes back full time? Once Smoky Mountain's done, he's also an on-screen heel manager still, as we've established, but he's got a role behind the scenes. He's doing some booking, or is he part of Vince's think tank, or what was his official title at the time?
He was involved in creative. He was involved in writing television, coming up with ideas, sitting in on those creative meetings, and contributing in that regard. You know, he still had the same basic personality. Sometimes he didn't take no or rejection well, like all of us, quite frankly. Yeah, he helped write television. Some of those good TVs in that era, he contributed greatly to.
Well, he certainly knew, what, when and how to handle Vince McMahon, but the other Vince, I think this is where him and Vince Russo started to butt heads a little bit, and maybe even Kevin Dunn. It does feel like, for whatever reason, Kevin Dunn and Vince Russo are near the top of Jim Cornette's shit list. Can you tell us about either one of those situations, actual situations you recall that maybe come to mind when you think about those two not really getting along?
Well, I can count my blessings the fact that I was not involved to any large degree on the creative. I was glad that Vince didn't saddle me with that as well. I was in a lot of those meetings, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't my day-to-day gig. I was more diversified, shall we say, because I was doing a lot of work with JJ, which would eventually see me taking, when JJ left after he got his pay cut, we all did, in the wrestling side. JJ couldn't live on what Vince was going to pay him, and JJ had a special needs son and, 3 kids. It was just more than he could handle. So he quit. I think Bruce and I were in South Africa, believe it or not, when that went down, doing a show there for one of the national sports networks, cable networks. But Corny and Russo were never going to get along because they were so seemingly, now I may be wrong about my evaluation of this or description of it, they're diametrically opposed in philosophy. It doesn't mean one guy was always right or one guy was always wrong. It just means they were very, very different, and they both were very strong personalities, and they were both very headstrong, and so they were never going to get along. Kevin Dunn basically liked the entertainment side of the presentation of wrestling, maybe more than he liked wrestling. What you find that out a lot in that company, especially. So I remember that we had that meeting in Halifax, and that TV. We get there on Saturday. We don't do Raw till Monday, so we got all day on Sunday to do whatever. But we ended up having a big, we knew we were going to have a big TV meeting to format our televisions. And Kevin Dunn said something in the meeting. It seemed to be kind of mundane to me, but I don't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't something that stuck in my mind. And Cornette jumps up out of his chair, sitting across from Kevin, and lunges at him. You goddamn Bucky Beaver looking motherfucker! I'll kill you. Okay, so then Vince looks at me like, hey, you hired him. I didn't bring him in. He ain't my guy.
Right.
So I had to take Cornette. I went to his room and, goddamn, Corny, you can't do that, man. You're taking a bat out of your hands. So he just didn't. He had an outburst. And again, you got to remember, he's been on 3 airplanes in the last 24 hours.
Right.
And if you don't have a fear of flying, you probably won't relate to that. Well, he shouldn't have done that. Well, of course he shouldn't have done that. God damn it. I ain't got to be the valedictorian in my class to figure that out. Yeah, no, he shouldn't have done that. Nobody should do those things. The outburst in a meeting, it was embarrassing. There are people in the production side that weren't aware of all these little idiosyncrasies that we had on the wrestling side. It made us look a little bit archaic and a little strange, maybe. So, So after that moment, they were never on the same page. And the thing about it is, it's like this very day, Kevin Dunn has become a multi-millionaire working for WWE, which is good for him. I don't have any, that's not a knock, by the way, but he's Vince's right-hand guy. And he was Vince's right-hand guy then. So when you get on the wrong side of the right-hand guy, other than coming left-handed, you're screwed because there's no net. There's nobody to bail you out or say, well, but he has some good ideas. There just wasn't that way. So Corny didn't do himself any favors on that one. But again, I look back at the real story where we basically discount the fact that the guy has so much fear of flying, it makes him physically ill.
Right.
And he doesn't heal in 24 hours. He'd get off the road in the WWE and you wouldn't hear from him for a day or two because he was sleeping, chilling, thawing out, decompressing, whatever the word you want to use. So he had issues there. I wasn't in enough meetings with Russo and Cornette together to give you a chapter and verse, other than it just was inevitable. Vince from Long Island, he only grew up knowing one kind of wrestling. That was the WWF. That was the be all end all in his world. Nothing else counted. And Cornette had that diverse background from having that big TV antenna there in Louisville, watching all kinds of wrestling growing up. So it just was a bad mix, unfortunately, in hindsight now, a bad mix. If they all could have got along, there's no telling what that team could have accomplished, because you had some very smart, product knowledgeable people, especially within their own little areas of expertise. It's just unfortunate it didn't work out that way.
Well, something else that had everybody talking was the Montreal screw job. I kind of get the vibe from watching that story on Vice with his participation that he takes credit for the Montreal screw job, like it was his idea. You ever hear that from him?
Yeah. The fact that, the theory was it wasn't an anti-Bret Hart thing. It was the fact that you got to control your title.
Right.
And the title, your championship, is the most important thing, the most important entity, even though it's an inanimate object. It's the most important entity that you possess within your company is your championships, and making the championships have value and meaning. And that was his argument, was that the championship was very valuable. It was the crown jewel of the promotion, and we're going to do what? And so he went old school, thinking we can't do this. So I've heard him talk about it. I don't know if it was totally his idea or not, to be honest with you, because I was not involved in that whatsoever. I'm glad to say after all these years, I didn't know it was happening until I saw it before my very eyes. True statement. Absolutely true. But it was one of the few times that a secret was actually kept and kayfabe to a lot of people. I guess over the years, more people will tell you they knew about it than others. I've been consistent with my story all along, just telling the truth. I didn't know. I still don't know. And when I saw it happen, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe it. And so if Corny had an instrumental part in coming up with an idea to be able for us to possess the title once that Survivor Series was over in November of '97, then I got no reason to disallow that or to not believe it.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.